Ms. Mazzell, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Tim Lopez.
Sir, please remain standing and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated. Please state your name for the record. Spell your first and last names.
Tim, T-I-M, Lopez, L-O-P-E-Z.
Good morning, Mr. Lopez.
Good morning.
Mr. Lopez, in 2009, were you operating a pharmacy in Las Vegas, Nevada?
Yes.
Was that pharmacy Applied Pharmacy Services?
Yes.
Were you the pharmacist as well as the owner of the pharmacy company?
Yes.
Did you handle the business aspects as well as the filling of prescriptions?
Yes.
Describe for me, please, what Applied Pharmacy did in terms of its business related to pharmaceutical sales.
It was considered a specialty pharmacy that compounded, which means medicines were made differently than what's commercially available based on a physician's preference.
And you closed that business at some point in 2010, I believe, correct?
Yes.
So in 2009, you were operating the pharmacy. Would it be accurate that it's the same type of pharmacy that one might go to fulfill a routine prescription? For example, would it be someplace that I would go and fill a prescription as an ordinary type customer you have?
We can do that. The pharmacy had the capability to do that, but that wasn't the clientele that came to the pharmacy.
What clientele did you serve at Applied Pharmacy Services?
Patients that were specifically directed to the facility by a physician that I had either spoken to before or knew of the specialized services that we provided.
Can you give me an example of what a specialized service might be that would bring you into contact to fulfill a prescription for someone on a special basis?
If you have a pet, for example, a dog or a cat that becomes ill, and they essentially take medicine that's very similar, if not the same, as a human would, but the dosing would be differently. So there are some needs where you have to change how it's administered to the animal and or flavoring to make it more palatable. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, so fulfilling a prescription for a pet would be one example of your services. Can you give me an example of a service that would be specially tailored to a human patient?
It could be a topical cream for pain, for dermatological reasons. It could be a special formulation of a capsule that is not available anymore. Again, all under the direction of a physician's order.
So a physician would write a normal prescription, it just might have a special twist to it, and then your pharmacy would handle the specialized nature of a prescription. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Did you work more commonly and frequently with physicians or patients who walked in who were citizens?
With physicians, because we did have some walk-in traffic, but most of them wouldn't know what to ask us for. They wouldn't know the services that we provided.
I'd like to turn now to November of 2008. At that time, did you receive a phone call from a person who identified himself as Dr. Conrad Murray?
Yes.
Did Dr. Murray refer to himself or describe himself as a cardiologist practicing in Las Vegas?
Yes.
What other information did Conrad Murray provide to you during that November 2008 conversation?
He was looking for a specific dermatological agent that is used for whitening of the skin, and he mentioned that a lot of his clientele, his patients, were African American, and they could use this particular medicine.
What was the name of the medication that Dr. Murray was interested in?
Benequin.
Did he describe himself as having a patient base or a client base requiring this specific Benequin product?
Yes, he had a specific patient base that suffered from a condition known as vitiligo, and he heard about the cream and was wondering the availability of it, if it was something that my pharmacy can provide for him.
And what was your response to his inquiry?
I told him that I would have to, we generally purchase raw material and make the end product, so I had to look at my sources to see if it was something that I could get for him to make the final product which he desired.
So as part of your expertise, you would actually compound or create the end product, in this case, Benequin cream, that Conrad Murray referenced. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Did you advise Conrad Murray that you would be looking into this and would get back to him?
I took his phone number and his basic information, and I told him I would do a search with my suppliers to see if it was available.
Was it your understanding that Dr. Murray would then follow up with you?
It was kind of open-ended. I usually call back. I did a quick search to see if it was available. None of my suppliers had the raw material that was needed, and it was at a time when my pharmacy was right in the middle of a move from one location to another, so I lost his information and I never followed up with the phone call.
So the order for the Benequin, or the conversation about the Benequin with Conrad Murray, just sort of fell by the wayside at this point in time, correct?
Correct.
I'd like to move forward now to March of 2009. Did you have subsequent contact with Conrad Murray in March of 2009?
Yes, I did.
Describe that contact, please. For example, telephonic, in person?
I received a phone call in a similar manner. Dr. Murray introduced himself again and asked me if I was the same individual he spoke to at the previous phone call, and I told him I was. And he mentioned that he was wondering why I hadn't called him back regarding his inquiry to the availability. And then the way I explained to you is what I explained to him, that we're in the middle of a move. I may have lost his contact information. So I took his information again, and I promised him that I would be a little more diligent and look for the information, and I'd call him back.
And when you spoke with Dr. Murray in March of 2009, did he further identify himself as a cardiologist practicing in Las Vegas?
Yes.
Did you then attempt to follow up and locate the compounding substances to assist Dr. Murray in fulfilling his request for Benequin cream?
Yes, I did.
And what was the results of your attempts at contact?
I found one supplier that had some in stock, a limited supply, and I asked them the availability of a repeat order or future orders. And they informed me that any future orders would be considered special orders, which means you would have to pay up front in order for them to order it. They weren't just going to order it based on my word.
Is this an expensive product? Are the compounds to create the product fairly expensive?
That made it expensive, the fact that they had to special order. It normally isn't expensive, but they were putting that cost onto me.
Did you contact Dr. Murray and advise him as to the information you obtained?
Yes, I did.
And what was his response?
He was pleased that I was able to find it, and he asked me what is the approximate. He wasn't sure on how it was prescribed, the strengths, and he asked me what strength can I make it. And my reply was 20%, which is the standard strength that most physicians use. And he asked me how much, based on that strength, how much can you make with what you can purchase?
And what was your response to that inquiry?
I believe he initially asked for 30-gram tubes, which is roughly an ounce. And based on that, I told him that we could make approximately 40 of the 30-gram tubes at 20% strength.
Once you advised him that you would be able to make 40 tubes of the product, did he place an order?
Yes, he did.
And how many items did he order?
the whole lot, which would have been 40 of the 30-gram tubes.
Did he indicate to you that that would be sufficient for his needs, or did he ask you to obtain additional product?
I told him the circumstances of reordering, and he agreed with it, that was no problem. So he asked me if I can make sure that I always have some on stock.
Did Conrad Murray describe for you in any further detail regarding his patient base who would be using these numerous tubes of Benequin cream?
He, referring back to our initial conversation, he again said that he had many patients, African American patients, who suffered from this condition, vitiligo, and that this was a trial basis to see how they responded to the medicine.
Did he also tell you that he had several clinics and would possibly use this product overseas on patients?
Yes.
Once Conrad Murray placed the order for the Benequin cream, was payment arranged in some fashion?
He said that he would come pick it up, and I don't remember, but initially I may have asked for a credit card, but we finally agreed that he was going to come to my office to pick it up, and he would bring a company check.
Your Honor, I have an exhibit. I'd ask that you mark people's necks, please.
63.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Lopez, I'm going to place an exhibit on the projector and ask you if you can identify it. May the record reflect I've placed People's 63 on the projector. Mr. Lopez, from where you're seated, are you able to see this item?
Yes.
What is this document?
It's a company check written by Dr. Murray.
Do you want that light dim?
That would be great, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is your company, Applied Pharmacy,
Yes.
and the date of this check is April 1st, 2009, in the amount of $1,200. Is this payment for the Benequin cream that you've been describing for us?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez, did Conrad Murray bring that check into your office personally when he picked up the Benequin cream that you've described for us?
Yes, he did.